Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. The sun is shining, which is a really good thing, but I think we can officially say that winter has finally come to Minnesota. I'm going to get this started right away because I know we're going to have a lot of questions in reference to this topic, and I know that Wendy has a lot of information to go over with us. So as we had sent this out earlier to you guys, today we're going to be talking about short sales, forbearance, foreclosures, and we brought in an expert for that. So one of the things that she did request is if you guys could turn your cameras on. She does like to see people and interact with people. So if you could do that, that would be amazing. No judgment here. We do not care what anybody looks like this morning. We're just happy that we're all awake and we're enjoying a cup of coffee. So I am going to turn it over to Wendy. You go ahead and take the floor, introduce yourself, and we will go from there.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Wendy Hazley with Mark Van Zweifel Law Firm. I want to thank Jill and National Realty Guild for having me come talk to you today. I want to apologize up front if I cough some during this. There's a possibility that I might be coming down with a little COVID. We were all together for Thanksgiving weekend, and two of my daughters tested positive yesterday. So I apologize if I cough. It's been irritating me a little bit. So not feeling sick though. So that being said, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background. I was actually a real estate agent for 30 years. My husband's a broker. My daughter's a loan officer. So I do understand your end of the business. And hopefully by the end of the next hour and 15 minutes or so, you'll understand more of my end of the business as well. In 2009, Jeff Zweifel, the attorney, and I started this program where we represent homeowners in the short sale of their property. Basically, the listing agent gets the offer, we get the offer approved by the lender and get you to closing and get you paid your commission checks. And how the program, and since 2009, we've successfully closed over 4,000 short sales. So we do as much of this or more than this than anybody in the Midwest. So I'll be happy to answer questions as we go through. Just turn on your mic if I'm not making something clear, and jump right in. I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. If you have personal stories to relate, keep that till the end so we can get through the content as quickly as possible. So to let you know how our program works, I know realtors are sometimes say, oh, I don't want anyone else to do it because I don't want it to cost me anything. Well, it doesn't cost you anything when you work with us. Here's how it works. When an agent has a short sale listing or potential listing and you want to involve us, the first step is you have your seller give me a call and we schedule a no charge phone consultation for them with Jeff, the attorney. During that consultation, Jeff explains to the seller how the short sale works, what documentation they have to provide is required by their lender. He reviews them for short sale eligibility to make sure that they're likely eligible for the short sale. He also explains realistic timelines, expectations, and outcomes, and tells them what scary mail to watch for if they're in default, how to postpone their own sheriff's sale if one occurs, if when it gets scheduled, and why it's important to do so, and of course answers any questions they may have. Now, if the seller chooses to retain us to represent them, there may or may not be an out-of-pocket expense to the seller for our representation. About half of our sellers pay $0. About a third of our sellers pay just $195. Those people are people who are in default on their mortgage, unemployed or underemployed, and are basically doing the short sale to avoid a foreclosure on their record and for other reasons to avoid the foreclosure, which we'll get into a little bit later. A small percentage of our clients, about 10% or so, are doing more of what we call a strategic short sale, where they can afford the payment. They may even be current, but they want to or have to sell the house and they just want to get out as cheaply as possible. Those people are charged $395. So it's a very inexpensive exit from an underwater property. Then once the seller retains us, while you're marketing the property, we collect all the financial documents from the seller that their lender requires, so you don't have to mess with that at all. We order title work, we examine the title work, and work on title clearing if necessary. So hopefully there's no last minute surprises preventing a closing once a short sale is approved. When you get an offer fully executed, you send the offer over to me. At no time do you communicate with the banks. We do all of that. Once we get the offer, we prepare our own HUDs. We send it into the lenders. We negotiate out the approval, and then I provide you, the listing agent, with a progress update at least once a week. And then it's your responsibility to pass that update on to the buyer's agent, so all parties stay informed and patient throughout the process. And then when it's approved, we close it with our contract closer. Now, there is a second fee we charge, because we can't pay all the employees here, on a few sellers paying a couple $100. So the negotiation fee, to use round numbers, is a little over $2,000 per short sale. That fee, like your commission, we put on the HUD, and it's charged to the short sale lender. And also, and then the lenders pay us in full almost all the time, like 99% of the time. But on very rare occasions, maybe once or twice a year, a lender might approve the short sale but short our fee. If that is the case and it does close, then the listing agent pays us the unpaid portion, but up to a maximum cost to the agent of $300. So as an example, if it gets approved and closed and we get shorted $100, you'd pay us $100 at closing. But let's say we get shorted $1,000 of our fees by the lender and it closes. You'd pay us the agent max, which is $300, and we'd waive the balance. But again, it's only a couple times a year that an agent has to pay it all. 99% of the time doesn't cost the agent anything. And we have well over a 95% approval rate. So when you work with us, we do all the work, and you're going to closing over 95% of the time. So does anybody have any questions on that at all? Nope. Okay. So we're going to get into this. Let me share the screen
Hey,
here.
I got a quick question.
Yes.
I think it might just help the group if you could you just cover high level, what is a short sale, and how do realtors generally find those short sales and before they even engage you?
Okay. What is a short sale? That's the actually like page 3 of the PowerPoint. So we will get into that. But how do people find them? It's usually friends, neighbors, past clients that you hear about, that they're having mortgage difficulties, and they may come to you for advice. And if you find out that they're facing a potential foreclosure, or they have to sell or want to sell, and you do your market and find out that they owe more than what the property's worth, then it's a short sale. So I'll get into more details on that in a minute. Any other questions on that? Okay, so back in the last recession, for any of you that have been in the business a long time, 40% of the listings were short sales from 2009 to about 2012. 40% were bank-owned foreclosed properties, and only 20% were traditional sales. And of course, as the economy recovered and the market values went back up and so on, a very, very small percentage of the listings are short sales. But since COVID and the recession that we're almost in, depending on which politician you believe, people are in trouble again. So the amount of short sales are increasing exponentially. Every week for the last 6 months, I get more calls from agents for short sales than I did the week before. So it is escalating again, even though it's nothing compared to the last recession. It's still out there. So what happened, of course, was what happened during COVID. And when COVID hit, the Trump administration came out with the CARES Act, the COVID CARES Act, and there were two major things that they did in the CARES Act that prevented a housing crisis like we had in 2008 to 2012. One was that they, on all federal loans, which are 80% of the loans, they stopped the foreclosure proceedings, put a pause on foreclosures. That kept people in their homes till they could get back to work after the shutdowns and start making their payments again. And they also offered mortgage forbearances, where people could cease to make their mortgage payments so that they could feed their kids and make their car payments and so on, and it wouldn't negatively affect their credit. All that was great. It kept us from losing 40% of the property values again, like we did 12, 15 years ago. But it has now led to an increase in foreclosures now and short sales from people who could not get back on track. 1 out of every 6 homeowners, mortgagees, people who had mortgages, entered a mortgage forbearance. 1 out of every 4 FHA mortgage holders, mortgagees, entered into a mortgage forbearance. Of those that came out of the forbearance, only about 50% of them are getting back on track, and the rest of them are forced to sell with equity to prevent foreclosure, and some of those that are forced to sell to prevent foreclosure are now underwater because of 2 years of missed payments, and that's when we come into play, where it's a short sale. So first question, what is a short sale? A short sale is when basically somebody has to or wants to sell their house, and the total of their mortgages totals more of what the property is worth after cost to sell. So as an example, say the property is worth $300,000, but to pay off all the mortgages, it takes $340,000. After cost to sell, if it sells for $300,000, there's only $276,000 left, and that's not enough to pay off the $340,000 in mortgages they have. So the only way we can close that transaction and get the lien releases from the lender is if the lender must approve the short sale. And even though they're getting less than what's owed, and that's where we come into play, is making those applications, talking to the lenders and getting them to approve it. A short sale lender, when the short sale approval letter comes out, it basically says 3 things. It says, we're allowing you to sell the property, providing we get X dollars out of the sale, which is the net proceeds after cost to sell. And at that closing, after that it closes, we will provide a release of lien to the title company so that the title is clear, and we will waive the balance to the seller. So when a seller does a successful short sale, they don't owe the lender anything. Even if they have 2 or 3 mortgages, we get all the lenders to approve the short sale and waive the balance so the seller goes to closing and doesn't owe their lenders anything. So that's basically what a short sale is. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, so as I said, over 95% of short sales are approvable in today's market, providing that everybody in the property is at fair market value, and providing that everybody in the transaction has knowledge of the process, realistic expectations, is patient throughout the process, and that everybody communicates with everybody. So I'm communicating with the lenders once or twice a week. I'm providing information to the listing agent. The listing agent needs to communicate with the buyer's agent. Both agents need to communicate with their clients, so everybody knows what's going on through the process, stays in the deal until we can get it approved and closed. So a few details, general short sale information. It used to be, when I started in short sales in 2009, it commonly took 9 months to 18 months to get a short sale approved. In today's market, it's 30 to 90 days from the time the offer is submitted to the lender to the time we get an approval decision. With most lenders, it's 30 to 45 days. There's a couple lenders that work a little slower. There's a couple types of loans that take a little longer, where you may run into that 60 to 75 day window, but most of them are 30 to 45 days now for approval decision. So the buyer doesn't have to wait around forever, just a little longer than a traditional sale. So
quick question that you're touching on it a little bit, but can you provide more insight in terms of the lender's openness to essentially lose money when they sell the home? So like how generally, how far or how late are these individuals on their payments? And then what does that process look like with getting to like the aligned agreement on fair market value of the home?
Okay, there's a bunch of questions there, so I'm going to answer one I caught right away. How far does a person have to be in default? I've done short sales with people that are current, and I've done short sales with people that haven't made a payment for 8 years, and everything in between. Okay, commonly the people are 6 to 9 months in arrears. They're not functioning well, then they get a foreclosure notice and then they reach out to you. Okay, so most people it's 6 months to a year that they're behind on payments. But again, some people are current. They're getting relocated for their job. They're underwater. They have to do a short sale. They don't have the money to bring to closing. Some haven't made payments for years, and the property has slipped through the cracks at the lenders. And all of a sudden, the lender, it pops up and they start foreclosure, and then that seller contacts somebody. So regarding commissions, I want to tell you about mortgages. There's 80% of mortgages are federal loans. They're backed by the government. That's FHA, VA, USDA loans, and also conventionals where Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac are the investor. Those are 80% of the loans. So they're called GSE loans, government serviced. The 20% of the loans are private investor conventionals. An example of a private investor conventional would be, say the people had a mortgage with their local credit union, and the credit union kept the paper. You know, they didn't sell it to somebody else, and it's not insured by the government. That's a private investor conventional loan. All those types of loans have different requirements. The investors have different rules. So 90% of the lenders pay 6% commission. All of the government loans are 6% commission. Half of the private investor conventionals pay 6% commission. They will not pay a broker admin fee in addition, because they cap the commission at 6%. You guys all know that RESPA says that a broker admin fee is a commission. So they will not allow either agent to collect the broker admin fee at closing or outside of closing, either or. About 5%, 5 to 10% of the lenders will only pay 5% commission, and we find that out during the approval process, and I let you know. Commissions are non-negotiable. So if you list a short sale, list it at 6%. If it happens to be one of those few where they only pay 5%, I let you know through the approval process. Again, they will not pay broker admin fees, and they will not allow the agent to collect the broker admin fee at closing, nor directly from their client outside of closing, not the buyer broker either. And it's important to know as agents that you will be signing a short sale affidavit at or prior to closing that says that no money has exchanged hands between any of the parties that was not disclosed to the lender. So if you tried to collect a broker admin fee directly from your seller or buyer outside of the closing, you would be in violation of that short sale affidavit, and that's considered mortgage fraud. Okay, so when you work with us, we let you know the rules so you don't accidentally do something that could cause you to lose your license or go to jail. So all short sales must be an arm's length transaction. And what that means is that the seller and the buyer cannot currently nor previously have any family or business relationship. So as an example, a 25-year-old gal cannot sell her short sale townhome to her dad, or a person can't sell their short sale home to their boss. Okay, there can be no family or business relationship, current or previous. And also, as far as arm's length goes, the seller must leave the property and never live there again. So as an example, somebody couldn't sell their short sale property to an investor and then turn around and buy it back on a CD, or turn around and rent it from the investor till they can afford to buy it back from them. They cannot do that. The seller must leave the property and never live there again. So if you get involved in a transaction that you're concerned may not be arm's length, don't get involved in that transaction, because again, you'll be signing a short sale affidavit that confirms that this is an arm's length transaction and that the seller is leaving the property and won't live there again. And if you sign that fraudulently, again, that's mortgage fraud. So you want to make sure everything is on the up and up according to the rules of the investor. So there used to be a class called the CDP class that was to teach agents about short sales. And in that class, they told people that You had to list a short sale property at what they owe plus cost to sell, and then keep reducing the price till you get an offer to prove to the lender that you tried to get them as much as possible. That was incorrect then. It's incorrect now. It's a myth in the real estate community. When you list a property for short sale, you list it at fair market value as determined by most recently sold comps and considering the condition of this property. So say most of the comps are selling between, 300 and 3.25. If this one has some deferred maintenance, needs a little touch up, you may want to list it at 305. If it's in perfect condition, you want to list it at 3.25. That's the listing practice on a short sale. And then the other thing on a short sale is once you list the property at fair market value, you reduce the price 3 to 4% every 2 weeks until you get an offer. You need to understand that somebody in a short sale is 99% of the time they're behind on payments and they're headed for foreclosure, and they don't have time to be sitting on the market overpriced. The key is to get an at market value as quickly as possible and get it into the lender to prevent the foreclosure proceedings from continuing. If a sheriff sale occurs, it's too late to do a short sale 99% of the time. And everything I'm going to tell you today is true almost all the time, but there's rare exceptions to almost everything I'm going to tell you. I know what those exceptions are, but you want to make sure that your short sale meets the normal requirements so you don't wait 2 months for a decision and find out that you tried to do something that was an exception to the rule and it didn't work. Okay, so these are the rules that we're talking about right now, the policies that the lenders go by. So again, if the sheriff's sale occurs, or if the sheriff's sale is in the next few days, it's too late to do a short sale. With most lenders, you have to have an offer into the property 30 days prior to sheriff's sale date for them to stop the foreclosure proceedings. So time is of the essence. So list it at fair market value and reduce it 3 to 4% every 2 weeks until you get an offer. Any questions on any of that?
Do you have to align with the lender on what the fair market value is before putting it on the market?
Absolutely not. And the reason why is we don't want the when, as part of the lender process, they're going to order a property appraisal. Okay. We don't want them ordering appraisal until we have an offer. And the reason why, now you're in a softening market right now, right? Not every property you list is getting 10 purchase agreements at the first weekend. The market has slowed a little. So we are seeing in the industry that people are pricing properties what they think is a fair price, but now you're having to reduce the price once in a while in order to get an offer. So if we had the lender do the valuation up front, they'd come in at the top number. Right? Maybe you listed at 300 and you got to go down to 280 before you get an offer. Well, if you have the lender do a valuation up front, they're going to come in at 300, and now an offer at 280 can't get approved. Okay. So we don't want the lender doing a valuation until we have an offer and it's been proven what the market will bear. That's why you don't do it early. Okay. Any questions on that?
Yeah. So they don't take into consideration, the lender doesn't take into consideration what they're going to lose on the house if it sells.
No, they take into consideration what the house is worth. See, the lenders, they really do not want to foreclose. They do not want to foreclose. They lose statistically 20% more on a bank-owned property than they do on a short sale, because people strip the property. They rip out stuff, or they scratch up the hardwood when they're taking out the appliances, crap like that. There's all kinds, and deferred maintenance, and then the yard goes to hell, and etc. So the lender knows that they're going to get less loss. They're going to minimize their loss by doing a short sale rather than taking the property back and having to remarket it themselves.
Got it. And what you're saying is once an offer is accepted, that lender, so really the lender on the seller side, is doing an appraisal.
Correct. And I'm going to get more details about that in a minute, what the process is. Okay. So as far as what does the seller, it's not in my PowerPoint. What does the seller have to provide? A short sale package includes a purchase agreement, a HUD, showing the lender cost to sell and how much they're going to get out of it, a third-party authorization from the homeowner, a listing agreement, a copy of the MLS, a hardship letter from the seller saying why they can't make their payments, a mortgage assistance application that looks almost identical to a new mortgage application, and then 3 months of bank statements, 2 years of tax returns, and 2 months of proof of income, 2 months of pay stubs. So basically the same thing, the seller provides the same things in a short sale that they're providing when they're trying to get a mortgage. Okay. And then plus the real estate documents. That's what goes in a whole short sale application. So it says no two short sales are alike. They're investor specific. Fannie Mae has different rules than HUD does for FHA loans. Freddie Mac has different rules than VA loans, etc. Huntington Bank, they used to do TCF, has different rules than Wings Financial Credit Union, as an example. Every investor has different rules, and we know what those rules are. They're also servicer specific in that Wells Fargo has different processes than US Bank, etc. They're seller specific. A short sale might go one way with a seller that's 3 years behind than one that's current on the mortgage. They're also buyer specific. There's different rules for buyers depending on how they're financing. And I'm going to explain to you what those are. This chart, and by the way, we have a short sale guide. And that when we're done today, I'm going to send Jill an email that she can forward to all of you. In that email is going to be a copy of this PowerPoint, so you can keep it and refer to it. When you have, what did Wendy say about this, so on. We also have a short sale guide that's from the law firm to listing agents, and this is exactly how it works. And there's a step-by-step process in that guide for listing agents, from the point of listing to what is and is not allowed on the offer to closing. Everything, every step right there for you to follow. Very user-friendly. And in that guide is this chart, and it just shows you the differences on what is or is not allowed on short sales, depending on what type of mortgage that the seller has. I want to go back one here. No, okay, it's coming up. Okay, so short sale offer requirements. A lot of things are different than a traditional sale. First of all, the offer must be at fair market value based on most recently sold comps. So if your CMA says a property is worth $275 to $300, don't let your seller accept an offer for $250, because it's not going to be approvable, and it's going to take 30 to 60 days to get the counter offer, and the buyer maybe wouldn't come up to the counter offer. Now we lose that buyer, and your seller has limited time to get this done before they head to foreclosure. So make sure as a listing agent, if you get an under market value offer from a buyer's agent, that you counter the offer prior to us sending it to the lender. Okay, so it must be at fair market value as determined by the short sale lender in order to get approved. No electronic signatures are allowed by almost all lenders. So it must be hand signatures. And no, you don't have to go over to their house and get blue ink signatures. You can email them the offer, have them print it, hand sign everything, and email it back to you. Okay, so no electronic signatures allowed on purchase agreements, addendums, short sale affidavits, approvals that have to be signed, and everything. Everything must be hand signed. Short sale lenders will consider paying a maximum of 3% closing costs for FHA, VA, or USDA funding buyers. They will pay 0 closing costs for a conventional funding buyer, even if the conventional buyer is only putting 3% down. So they'll pay a maximum 3% closing costs for FHA, VA, or USDA funding buyers, 0 for conventional funding buyers. So when you get the offer from the buyer's agent, make sure that they're not asking for closing costs that are more than what's allowed by the short sale lender, or you need to counter it at the time of the offer. Now, there's a lot of things that traditional sellers normally pay for, that it's customary. Traditional seller pays for lender work orders, home warranties for the buyers, things like that. Short sale lenders will not pay for that, and the seller has no money. So as a listing agent, you have to make sure that you're not obligating your seller in the purchase agreement to any out-of-pocket expenses that are not covered by the short sale lender. So short sale lenders will not pay ever for any home warranties, septic tests, water tests, or lender work orders. So on the purchase agreement, instead of marking seller shall pay, you have to mark buyer shall pay. Buyer has to pay for their own inspections. They have to pay for their own home warranties if they want one. Short sale lender will not pay. And short sale lenders will not reimburse any party for payments up front of staging costs, home inspections, TISH inspections, HOA resale disclosure certificates, or certificates of redemption. So therefore, you need to agree in the purchase agreement who's going to pay for it, so that you don't have a buyer assuming the seller's going to pay. The seller has no money. We get the short sale approved. Now these expenses have to be covered, and everybody stands and goes, well, who's going to pay for it? Seller says, I don't have any money. Buyer says, I'm not contractually obligated. Guess who pays for it? The agents, because you want your $12,000 commission check, so you paid the $350 for the inspection that you should have had addressed in the purchase agreement upfront. Okay, any questions on that part? Okay, short sale contingency addendum must be included with every short sale offer. And it's critically important as listing agency, you protect your seller in how that is executed. Line 15 is the approved by date. You want to have 90 days. So if the purchase agreement is written today, November, December, January, you want to say approved by February 28th on the line 15 on the contingency addendum. It's likely not going to take that long. It's probably only going to take half that long, but it's better to allow the full 90 days that there's a possibility it might take, so that, again, the buyer is realistic and patient enough to wait. Line 21 on the contingency addendum should not be checked. If line 21 is checked, it says that earnest money will only be deposited after the short sale is approved. As a listing agent, you must protect your seller and make sure that it's not checked and that you collect earnest money at the time of the offer. If it doesn't get approved, the buyer gets their earnest money back. So there's no threat to the buyer. But the thing for the seller is, if there's a lot of uneducated, unknowledgeable, unprofessional real estate agents in this business, we all know that 20% of the people do 80% of the business, and the other 80% dabble in it, right? So they're not aware of all this stuff. And there's a lot of agents out there that they'll write an offer for their buyer on a short sale listing, and then they'll turn around and keep showing them other houses. And they might go make an offer on another house, not realizing, because they're not a professional, they don't realize they just obligated their buyer to 2 houses. They go close on the other house. Now we get the short sale approved. And you find, if you didn't have earnest money, now you find out that they've left the transaction. So the only way to protect your seller from that happening is if you have deposited earnest money. So if the buyer is leaving the transaction, they'll send you a cancellation, and we need to know if they're leaving the transaction right away, so we can get the property back on the market, so that we can find another buyer before it goes to foreclosure. Line 25B must never be checked. B says that the buyer's going to wait and do their home inspection after the short sale is approved. Well, we can't allow that, because we can't go through a 60-day approval process, then have the buyer do the inspection, and then find out as a result of the inspection they no longer want the property and cancel. Because now it might be too late to find another buyer for your seller, because they're headed too soon to foreclosure and it's too late. So the buyer must do the inspection up front and at the time of the offer, and remove their inspection contingency before we submit the offer to the lender. Now, that's for the benefit of the seller, but it's also for the benefit of the buyer. For you people that are buyer's agents, you should always want your buyer to do the inspection up front right away at the time of the offer, because a lot of these short sale properties have deferred maintenance because people don't have money. They're not making their house payments, so then they're not fixing things, right? They're not keeping things up to date in the property. So now during the inspection, you may find out that there's some problems with the property, like the roof is shot and the seller's not replacing it with their insurance because they can't afford the darn deductible. So instead of offering $290 for this property, they offered $275. As a result of the inspection, you know, on a traditional sale, after an inspection, it's not uncommon for a buyer to ask the seller to fix a bunch of stuff. Well, short sale sellers aren't willing to do that, spend the money to do that. They don't have the money. They don't have no equity in the property. So they say, no, it's an as-is sale. So then the buyer may say, okay, I still want the house, but now I'm going to reduce the price. So they can do that before we send it into the lender, but they can't reduce the price after the short sale's approved. There's no more negotiations. So it's for the protection of the seller. So the buyer doesn't, if the buyer's going to cancel after inspection, we want them to do it right now, not 60 days from now when the short sale's approved. And it's also to the benefit of the buyer, so they know what they're buying it as is, and they're making an offer based on their offer price based on the as is purchase. Any question on those rules? Okay, short sale approval process. Why does it take 30 to 60 days on the average to get a short sale approved? When we send a complete package into the lender, the first thing they do is setups. Setups is where the stuff comes in and they upload it into the loan and they open the loan for short sale. They click on their computers, tagged, it's a short sale. And all the documents get uploaded into this one file for this one seller. Then they're assigned a processor, and the processor looks through all the documents and makes sure that everything is there, that it's complete, that it's legible, and it's on the right forms, etc. Like Wells Fargo has different forms than US Bank does. Huntington Bank has different forms than the credit unions do. Okay, so we always make sure we're using the right forms up front, get it sent in, and then we call into the lender after about 3-4 days, once it's uploaded, and find out, is there anything else you need? And it's common that they'll request something that maybe we've already sent them, but they didn't get it uploaded properly on their end, so we resend it again. Okay, because until the processor deems the file complete, nothing else happens. So we directly communicate with them, make sure they got everything, deem it complete. Once the file is deemed complete, it goes to an underwriter. An underwriter on a short sale is identical to the underwriter on a new mortgage. They're looking at the seller's financials to make sure that they're eligible. So the underwriter determines seller eligibility, and then they order a property appraisal. 15 years ago, they commonly ordered broker price opinions only. Now they usually order actual appraisals. If the seller's mortgage is FHA, they order an FHA appraisal. If the seller's mortgage is VA, they order VA appraisal. If it's conventional, they order conventional appraisal. Some lenders order both a broker price opinion and an appraisal. Okay, so once the seller's been confirmed as eligible and the appraisal is back at the lender, then they send the file to a negotiator. And it's a negotiator's job to look at the offer and make sure that it's approvable based on the appraisal value that they have. And that approvability with some lenders is that the offer must be at appraisal value. Some types of loans, it must be 95% of the appraisal value. Some type of loans, the net sale proceeds must be 88% of the value. So that's net after buyer closing costs paid and commissions and closing costs and so on. So they all have different rules on what's approvable based on that value. We know what those rules are with every type of loan and every lender. So if the negotiator determines that the offer is not at appraisal value, they will counter back at appraisal value, even if they have wiggle room on their end. They're required to counter back at appraisal value. Well, I know what the rules are based on the particular type of loan. So as an example, I know that with a certain type of US bank loan, if the appraisal value is 300, that they will actually approve 285. That's an actual example on a particular type of US bank loan. On an FHA loan, it depends if there's buyer closing costs being asked to be paid or not, on what the price must be. Okay, so I know what those rules are. So when the negotiator counters back, if they can't approve the offer as is, if they counter back at appraisal value, I will let you know what the counter is, but I'll also let you know that if that's a absolute number, or I might say that you know, the offer's 310, the counters or the counter's 320. If you can get the buyer up to 315, I know this will work. Okay, I'll let you know. Now, in a traditional sale, you can't say that to a buyer's agent, right? But because of your fiduciary responsibility to the seller. Well, in short sales, you as a listing agent and us as the attorneys for the seller, we have no fiduciary responsibility to the bank at all. Our fiduciary responsibility is to the seller. And the best thing we can do to the seller is get this thing approved and closed as quickly as possible before they slip further into foreclosure. So we want that buyer to be able to stay in the deal. And if I know that the counter is X, but they'll take a little less than that, I'm going to let you know so we have a better chance of keeping the buyer in the deal. Then once the negotiator determines that the offer is approvable, they send it on to the investor. The investor takes 2 to 3 days to sign off on it. Then it goes to the quality assurance team or management at the lender. They sign off on it, and then they issue the approval letter, and then we close. Any questions on those procedures at all? Okay. So the bulk of that time frame, that 30 to 45 days,
Quick question for you.
is waiting for the appraisal to come back in. Yes, Andrew, you have another question.
Yeah, just like a general percentage, how often do you run into issues with appraisal not coming in where it needs to be? Or like when
if the listing agent does their job correct, you won't have that problem. Okay. And what I mean by that, and it's in the short sale guide that I'm going to tell you, there's some things that are not obvious to an appraiser that a listing agent knows about a property. Okay. Like appraiser doesn't crawl up on the roof, right? An inspector does, but an appraiser doesn't. So maybe you know that the roof is shot and that it's going to be a $18,000 job. So when the bank sends their appraiser out, you talk to that appraiser and say, by the way, we know the roof is shot, or we know the septic needs to be replaced, or we know that the county road right behind this house is being expanded and nobody wants to buy it because of the traffic that's going to be there. Okay. Or we know that that elementary school is closing, adversely affects the value. So as a listing agent, anything you know about the property that adversely affects the value, you make sure that you tell the short sale lender's appraiser that information before they send their valuation in to the bank. Most appraisers are honest. If they have all the information, their valuation is going to be correct. Okay. And again, buyer's offer, if the listing agent let their seller sign a lowball offer, it isn't going to get approved, and you can't fight the appraisal. Okay. In most cases, in certain cases, if it's a Fannie Mae mortgage, we can fight the appraisal, but boy, we have to have significant documentation, contractor bids, all kinds of stuff to fight the value. We have to have proof. It's like putting on a case in court, right? If you don't have the right evidence, you're not going to win the case. Okay. So it isn't often, and especially in today's market, you know, where it's still a pretty healthy market, buyers know they're going to have to pay fair market value to get the house. So big counter offers are not the norm at all. They're very rare, Andrew. Okay. Okay. So why would a seller do a short sale, not just let it foreclose? Whole bunch of reasons. Number one, it's a graceful exit to an underwater property. A lot of people have pride and they don't want to move out in the middle of the night and have a real estate sign go up on their house that says bank owned, right? So nobody knows it's a short sale unless they have access to MLS. So there's some dignity for the seller. Also, there's commonly, it's not uncommon that there's a second mortgage on the property and or third mortgage. If the property goes through foreclosure, if it's foreclosed by advertisement, the lender foreclosing must waive the balance to the seller. But it's usually the first mortgage that forecloses. If there's a second mortgage on the property, that second mortgage debt remains. Okay, so even if it's with the same lender, let's say the people have 2 mortgages with US Bank, a first and a second. First mortgage forecloses, they take the house back. The lender doesn't owe anything on their loss on the first mortgage, but they still owe the full balance on the second mortgage. And will US Bank or any other lender try to collect on that second mortgage? Absolutely, they do. They file judgments on the second mortgage when the people aren't paying it. And when they win the judgment, they file the judgment in the county. They can use that judgment to seize money right out of bank accounts. They can use the judgment to garnish wages. And also the judgment attaches to any other property that the people may own in that county or any county that it's recorded in. So it's critically important that they do a short sale, because with a short sale, we get them off the debt on all the mortgages, not just the first mortgage. Then also 80% of the time, if the seller occupies the property, they're going to get paid some funds at closing. And I want to jump back a minute. When you know somebody that's missing their mortgage payments and they've come to you for counsel, be sure that you tell them, do not move out of the house. Don't move out of the house. I'm trying to fix my camera here. My head's getting cut off. It looks like I'm sitting in a hole. A little better. Okay. So first of all, if they're not able to make their house payments, why go pay rent somewhere where they can live in that house and just pay the utilities, right? So it's a financial benefit for them to, try to get back on their feet. But also there's many other reasons, a couple of which I'm going to get to in a minute regarding short sales. And then there's another reason, even if it goes through foreclosure, if they want to try to keep the house, why they should stay in the house. So if a homeowner occupies a property at the time of the short sale, depending on the type of loan they have, they may get money at closing. Excuse me. If their mortgage is VA, they'll get $1,500 at closing. It's called relocation assistance. If their mortgage is an FHA mortgage, they'll get $3,000 at closing. If their mortgage is a conventional mortgage that's Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac as an investor, the seller will get $7,500 at closing of their short sale. They get nothing if they let it go through foreclosure. So again, here's another benefit why they should do a short sale. But there are some financial hardship requirements for the reload funds, and most people in a short sale meet those requirements anyway. But the other requirement is a property must be owner occupied at the time of the approval in order for them to get those funds. So tell them, don't move out. Don't move out until we have the short sale approved. Even if they find the one apartment they can rent and bring the 4 cats, okay, fine, lease the apartment, but don't move into it until the short sale is approved, so we can get them their relocation assistance in the cases where that applies. And at the time we have the consultation with the homeowner, we find out what type of loan they have, and we let them know that as well. Okay. Any questions on that at all? On why they should do a short sale rather than foreclose? Okay. So now that's it on short sales. I'm going to send you out the short sale guide that's got a little more detail in it, but they're that simple. If you're working with us, they're really that simple. If I used to do a class on how to negotiate short sales, I don't do that anymore because you don't need to know that, and I will tell you this, national average, when realtors negotiate their short sales themselves, 1 out of 4 of them close, 25%. Our average is over 95%, over 9 out of 10 close. The reason why is we know what we're doing when we're dealing with the lenders, but also as realtor, we tell the listing agent what to do and how to do it. So everything that goes into the lender is done correctly. Okay. So now here's what's going on. Like I said, 1 out of 6 homeowners with mortgages entered a mortgage forbearance. 1 out of 4 FHA mortgagees entered a forbearance. Those forbearances were extended and extended and extended, and they're expiring all the time now, where they can't get another forbearance, they can't get back on track. So people are getting foreclosure notices, and I'm getting probably a half a dozen calls a week from realtors where they've got an ex-client or a cousin or a hockey mom they know, or a friend at church or a neighbor that's gotten a foreclosure notice, and they're like, what do we do, Wendy? Okay, almost all the time, those people have equity. 4 out of 5 of those people have equity. It's a traditional sale. Just get it on the market, get it sold, let the homeowner have their equity and move on. About 20% of those that are getting the foreclosure notices are underwater, and now we come into play with a short sale. But a lot of people don't know what their rights are. Homeowners don't know what their rights are. 50% of real estate agents don't even know what the foreclosure process is or what their rights are. So that's when I saw what's going on after COVID, I put this class together because there's so much stuff that realtors don't know that you need to know in order to serve the public and help these people out. So here's how foreclosures work in the state of Minnesota. Once somebody is 31 days in default, the lender has the right to start foreclosure. So if I didn't make my November 1st house payment on December 2nd, they have the right to start foreclosure. They don't usually until 90 to 120 days out, or maybe longer. But as soon as somebody's full month in default, they can start foreclosure. Once the lender chooses to start foreclosure based on whatever, is in their schedule, the first thing they do is they send out a letter to the homeowner saying, you're in default on your mortgage. You need to contact us to let us help you out. And commonly, when people are in financial distress, they're not functioning well. They put their head in the sand. They don't read the mail. If you hadn't made your house payment for 4 months, do you really want to read a letter from a lender and wreck the rest of your day? Or maybe they get a letter from a foreclosing attorney's office and they don't read it because they know it's going to be bad news. And when people are in severe financial distress, commonly the marriage is not going well. Everybody's not dealing with things well. And they'll commonly put the mail in the corner and say, I just want to get through dinner with the kids and not think about this for a while. And then they never look at it again. Okay. So when the first notice comes out, it says you are in default. You have 30 days to contact us. A lot of homeowners don't contact the lender because they know they can't make up the payments and they're not functioning. So then another letter comes out that says you're now in pre-foreclosure. You have 30 days to contact us, or we're going to start the foreclosure process. Now, if the homeowner doesn't do anything, now the lender refers the loan to a foreclosing attorney's office. Now the homeowner gets a certified letter from the foreclosing attorney's office, and it says, you are in pre-foreclosure. Your lender has hired us to represent them to foreclose on your property. You have 30 days to contact us if you think the lender is foreclosing illegally, if they're not justified in this foreclosure. Well, of course, a homeowner doesn't contact the foreclosing attorney because they aren't making payments. They know the lender has the right to foreclose, so they don't do anything. So at the end of that 30 days, the foreclosing attorney sends out another letter that says you are now in full-blown foreclosure. Your sheriff's sale date is scheduled for X date, and you have until that date to reinstate the mortgage, and your reinstatement amount is X dollars. So let me use an example to explain what that really means. Let's say I'm in foreclosure, okay? And I get that notice today that says you are now in foreclosure. Your sheriff's sale is scheduled for January 15th, 2024. Usually when people get that letter, the sheriff's sale date is 30 to 60 days out, okay? So they say your sheriff's sale date is January 15th. You have until that date to reinstate the mortgage. The reinstatement amount is $27,000 and $27,500. Okay. What the reinstatement amount is the amount of missed payments plus late fees, plus interest, plus penalties, plus attorney's fees. So my missed payments might only total $23,000, but my reinstatement amount is $27,500 because of all the penalties and foreclosing attorney's fees. So now in order to reinstate the mortgage and keep the house, I have until January 15th, the sheriff's sale date, actually January 14th, the day before the sheriff's sale date, to bring $28,500 in certified funds to the foreclosing attorney's office and pay the reinstatement amount in certified funds. If I do that, I get to keep the house. My house is no longer in foreclosure. Now I start making timely payments again and I get to keep the house. Okay. House is no longer in foreclosure. If I miss payments later, they'll slap me back into foreclosure again. Okay. But now I get to keep the house. I reinstated the mortgage, providing I continue to make my mortgage payments. If I don't do that and the sheriff's sale occurs, now I have a 6-month redemption period to redeem the property. And by the way, redemption periods in Minnesota vary somewhat. If it's less than 10 acres, it's 6-month redemption period. If it's 10 acres or more, it's a 12-month redemption period. Or if the people have over 80% equity in the property, it's a 12-month redemption period. Okay. But you're working in a metro market. So, and it's very rare somebody in foreclosure has 80% equity. So almost always when you deal with a foreclosure, it's going to be a 6-month redemption period. Meaning that the seller has 6 months to redeem the property. How can they redeem the property? They can redeem the property and keep it if they pay the redemption amount in certified funds to the sheriff before the end of the redemption period. So if my sheriff's sale occurs on January 15th, I have until June 15th to pay the redemption amount to the sheriff in cash or certified funds to keep the property. And what's the redemption amount? The redemption amount is the bid price plus interest from the date of the sheriff's sale to the date I pay the redemption amount. And what's the bid price? The sheriff's sale is an actual auction. And there's people that bid for the lien rights to the property. It's usually the lender is the winning bidder, okay? And the lender can only bid, the maximum the lender can bid is the amount that's owed on the property. In Minnesota, the lender is usually the winning bidder. So let's say it's $340,000 that I owe the lender, because now the original mortgage is gone. I can no longer just make up the bad payments. Now I have to pay the redemption amount in full. So if I owe the lender 340 grand, and that's the winning bid, because that's the max they can bid is 340, then the redemption amount is going to be about 345 because we've got interest accruing until I pay it. Okay. So if I pay 345,000 in this example to the sheriff's department before June 15th, the end of redemption, I now can keep the property. Well, of course, who can do that? You know, unless grandma dies of COVID and leaves you $1 million, or you win the lottery, people can't afford to redeem on their own. But they also have redemption rights by selling the property. So say I owe 340 on the property, but the property's worth 400. I list the property, I sell the property, it sells for 400. After cost to sell, there's 380 left. The title company pays the sheriff the 340, the redemption amount, and I get to keep the 40,000 equity. Okay. A lot of people don't realize that even after the sheriff's sales occurred, that they can still sell the property. Of the people going into foreclosure today, nationwide, 80% of them have equity. Of those, 25% let the foreclosure complete because they don't know they had the right to sell it. So it's important as real estate professionals to get that information out to people, and it's potential listings for you, plus you're helping them save their equity. Okay. So any questions on that, on the foreclosure proceedings and the right to sell the property?
1,000% that people don't know, and real estate agents should be the ones to let them know.
Yes.
And there's so little knowledge about it. And I've got somebody who's, this is just ridiculous. He should have sold 2 years ago.
Sure.
And he's lost so much equity because now we're in a tight market.
Yep. Yep, exactly. I get calls from agents commonly in that situation because the agent doesn't even realize they have the right to sell. What do we do? You know, and I tell list it right now. But I literally had an agent call me a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks left in the redemption period when the guy reached out to him. 3 weeks left, $1.1 million property.
Oh, good God.
Over 300,000 in equity. But they ain't finding a buyer, you know, in 3 weeks on $1 million property in today's market, right?
Right.
So he walked away from 300 grand equity. Too late. So what I would do if I was an agent today,
On that one, Yeah, couldn't they, you mean it was in the redemption, couldn't he have tried to do well, maybe because the payments are 30,000 a month or something, but couldn't he have done that
You can't,
extension for trying to redo the loan? I suppose because it's not
he can't
FHA.
redo the loan. He's in default.
Well,
He doesn't qualify for anything.
well, I have
Sheriff sales occurred, the loan is gone.
a sheriff's sale that is doing, and maybe you've already talked about it, the redoing the loan. The 5, where it's like, if it goes to redemption again, loan modification.
You
And as
can't do a
long
loan
as he makes the
modification.
3
You,
payments.
Marjorie, you cannot do a loan modification after sheriff's sale.
Oh,
can't
okay, I'm
modify the
sorry,
loan
I'm
that's
sorry,
gone.
yeah, okay. This is,
Pre-sheriff's sale.
it was pre-sheriff's sale, but yep, you're right. It was to extend the time, yep.
Yep. So when the sheriff's sale has occurred, that mortgage is gone.
Yep.
So
Okay.
now the only thing that homeowner can do is redeem and keep the property by paying the redemption amount in full, which of course they can't do, or they can sell the property if there's equity. If there's no equity, if they're underwater, it's too late to do a short sale because sheriff's sales occurred. Okay.
Yep.
If I was a realtor out there today, I would be marketing myself like crazy through all social media for short sales and foreclosure information. Are you having mortgage difficulties? We can help. Do you know anybody? Excuse me. Do you know anybody that's missed a house payment? They need to speak to a professional soon. We can help. Okay. And I would take this Minnesota foreclosure page right out of the guide, which I'm going to send you a copy, or right out of the PowerPoint, which I'm going to send you a copy. I'd take that page and I'd put it right on Facebook. And I'd say, do you know anybody who? Call me. They have rights. Don't lose your house to the bank. It's not necessary. We can help. Okay. And then if you know what their rights are pre-sheriff sale and post-sheriff sale, you can meet them where they're at in the situation and let them know what their rights are because they do not know. And maybe they decide to, it's pre-sheriff sale, they decide to redeem the property, grandma bails them out, and they keep the house. And now it's not a listing for you, but boy, are they going to be a referral source, right? You want a good realtor, call Jill. She helped us out when we were in trouble, right?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions on foreclosure? Okay. Remember I told you earlier, it's critical that someone stay in their house, even if they're missing payments. Stay there till they get kicked out or sell it. A homeowner has a right in the state of Minnesota to postpone their own sheriff's sale. Okay, so let's go back to me as the example. If they occupy the property, only if the property's owner occupied. So I get that notice today that my sheriff's sale is January 15th. I can't, let's say I'm a real estate agent. Okay. I've got 3 closings coming the end of January, where if I had that commission, I could reinstate the mortgage. But the sheriff's sale dates and my reinstatement amount is, 22,000. I'm getting paid 24,000 the end of January, but the sheriff's sale is January 15th. I got to pay him that amount before January 15th to keep the house. Okay, I can postpone the sheriff's sale. And the way they postpone the sheriff's sale, if it's owner occupied, is the homeowner signs an affidavit of occupancy with a notarized signature. They deliver a copy of the foreclosure notice and the occupancy affidavit to the county recorder's office and record it. Then they deliver a copy to the sheriff's department, and then they deliver a copy to the foreclosing attorney's office. And that postpones the sheriff's sale for 5 months. So now if, say in my example, sheriff's sale is scheduled January 15th, if I postpone my sheriff's sale, now the sheriff's sale isn't until May 15th. Okay. And why would somebody do that? One, it gives them longer to do a short sale, right? If they're underwater, so they can get their relocation assistance funds and avoid a foreclosure. Or number 2, it gives them longer to reinstate the mortgage. Maybe I can't come up with the 22,000 today, but I can come up with it in February. If I postpone the sheriff's sale, it gives me that much longer to come up with the funds to reinstate the mortgage, which is pay all the back payments and penalties and keep the house.
This
So
is what my,
basically it gives them 5 more months of options. Yes,
this
Margie?
is what my seller did, but is now in a loan modification. So
Got
it
it.
was
It
put
also
on to
gives
the
them time
end.
to modify the loan. Yeah,
Okay,
okay. So now, when a homeowner postpones the sheriff's sale for the 5 months, once the sheriff's sale occurs, there's only a 5-week redemption period after that, instead of another 6-month redemption period. Okay. So if my sheriff's sale occurs January 15th, it's scheduled, the end of redemption period is June 15th. But if I postpone my sheriff's sale, the sheriff's sale occurs on May 15th, but the end of the redemption period is June 22nd, 5 weeks later. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, in the short sale guide I'm going to send you, there is sheriff sale postponement instructions, step by step of what I just said, what a seller has to do, and there's also the actual occupancy affidavit required in that form. So you can put that together and give it to somebody who's in foreclosure. Say, here, this is what you got to do.
hey,
Okay.
Wendy,
Yeah.
during this postponement that we're going through, or this loan modification, the foreclosure attorney has still been listing the sheriff's sale, listing this property each month as a sheriff's sale, and then it gets denied, but they're still doing that to keep up the 6 weeks of, right? Like they're not supposed to do that, but they're doing that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The loan isn't modified yet, right? They're just
Right, it's in loan modification, so
correct.
they're listing it
Okay,
each month.
okay, I got it.
Yep.
So they're in the process of applying for a loan modification, working through that application. The foreclosure proceedings continue unless and until the loan is actually modified, because 80% of people that apply for a loan modification don't get them. Okay, so that's why they keep the foreclosure process going. Okay,
And the loan modification is still just making three payments on time. That's all it is, people. And so
it's
well,
Marjorie.
okay,
Trust me.
no, I understand.
I'm just trying to prevent you from giving misinformation.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, so here's the next two. We're about 10 minutes from done, but what I want you to know is anybody that wants to leave early, please don't, because the most important things I'm going to cover are these last things, and it's the things that are going to affect your business exponentially over the next 2 to 3 years until this COVID recession mess gets cleaned up. Okay, so junior mortgages is untitled that the homeowner doesn't even know about, so agents don't even know about it. When you go list a property, most listing agents just ask the homeowner, how many mortgages do you have? And that's their only question before they do a net sheet. Well, how can you do a net sheet if you really don't know what liens are on the property? Okay, and there's commonly second mortgages that homeowners have that they don't even know about. So there's partial claim second mortgages. What that is, and I want to back up a minute. Back in the last housing crisis, 40% of the titles were clouded with these kinds of things because of the big recession. Okay, it took until 2015, 2016 before most of those titles got cleaned up. How did they get cleaned up? People sold their houses, the title got cleaned up for the new buyer, or they refinanced and the title had to get cleaned up for the refi. Okay, so but now because of COVID and the recession and what the lockdowns did, thank you, Governor Walz, to people's income and their livelihoods and their financial situations and their mental stability and everything else, titles are getting clouded again. So second mortgages that people don't know about, partial claim second mortgages. What those are is when somebody does do a loan modification, they're behind on payments for months and months and months. They go through the loan modification process, which takes months to get completed. So by the time the loan is modified, they may have missed payments for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. So commonly it's 2 years. So if your house payment was $2,000 a month, you missed payments for 2 years, that's $48,000 in missed payments. Use round numbers. So once the loan gets modified, what happens to those missed payments? They take the missed payments and they put it on the title as a partial claim second mortgage. Okay, so the homeowner starts making the new modified payment, gets to keep the house, and the loan's modified if they've completed 90 days of payments, but all those missed payments now are on the property as a partial claim second mortgage, and it must be paid in order to sell or refinance. It's a due on sale clause. So homeowners don't realize that they have this partial claim second mortgage. A big percentage of homeowners did loan modifications during the last recession and had these partial claim second mortgages, but they've since sold the house or refied and they're all cleaned up. But now we have all these people like Marjorie's client doing loan modifications again because they're coming out of their forbearance. They can't get back on track. They do a loan mod and now they have a second mortgage on the property. So you come to list that house and I say, Jill, say I'm the agent, I'm listing Jill Warner's house. Jill, how many mortgages do you have? Oh, I just have one mortgage, one FHA mortgage with Wells Fargo. Okay, so now I do a net sheet based on the one mortgage. And we think that you only owe $240 on the property. But there's this $48,000 partial claim second mortgage that the seller doesn't know about and I don't know about. Why doesn't the seller know about it? Because they didn't read the loan mod papers when they signed them. Number two, there's no payments due on that second mortgage and no interest accruing on it. So it's just due on sale. Okay. So now I go to list Jill's house. I'm showing that she's got 60,000 equity. We get an offer on the net sheet because I don't know about the $48,000 second. I tell her she's got 60 grand equity. Now we sell the house. Now we go to closing and the title work and the payoffs come in a week before closing. The title company says, oh, she's got 12,000 equity. No, she had 60. She's putting that down on a retirement home. Nope, she's only got 12. Or here's what's worse. You thought when you listed the property, she had 30,000 equity, but she's got a $48,000 unknown second. Now you can't close because she's 12,000 underwater. Now it's a short sale. Or she has to bring cash to closing, which she doesn't have. Okay. So that's one type of second mortgage unknown to homeowners. So therefore, if you as the listing agents aren't aware those are out there and you don't ask the right questions or you don't check title, you don't know either. And that's how it's called commissionectomies. Okay, Marty, have you wait just a minute. Okay, we'll discuss that in the end. Okay, bankrupted seconds. That's another type of mortgage people don't know. And tell you what, after the COVID recession and the lockdowns, thank you, Governor Walz. You can understand I'm upset about that, but I am. Destroyed a lot of lives. A lot of people have had to file bankruptcy. Okay. In filing bankruptcy to get started again, to get restarted. If people had a second mortgage on their property, when they filed bankruptcy, the mortgage doesn't go away. They think it does. When you get a mortgage, you sign two documents. You sign the note, which is your personal promise to pay that attaches to you, the person, and you sign the mortgage. The mortgage is the lender's lien rights against the property. Okay. So when you file bankruptcy and you include the mortgages in the bankruptcy and the bankruptcy is discharged, your personal obligation under the note goes away, but the mortgage lien remains on the property. So now let's say they filed bankruptcy in 2021 because they couldn't reopen their restaurant because of the lockdowns. They're screwed. They're done. They're bankrupt. They have to start their life over. But they were able to keep making their house payment. And now they come to sell the house. Now they're getting back on their feet. Things are going good again. They're going to sell the house and they're going to move up to the Lakes area and retire. That bankrupted second is still on the house. So if you go and list that house, and you say, how many mortgages do you have? They're going to say one, because they think the second mortgage went away in the bankruptcy. Now, again, you sell the house, you get to closing, the title work comes in, and the title company says, well, there's a second mortgage here. No, it's not. It's bankrupted. The mortgage lien remains. It must be paid in order to close. So here's my lesson to you as realtors. Do not ever list a property again without checking the title before you go live on MLS or before you do a net sheet. I'm going to sound like an old grandma preaching now, but I am preaching. You're real estate professionals. As a real estate professional, how can you do a net sheet for a homeowner on showing the payoffs on the liens if you don't even know how many liens they have? And you don't know just by asking them because they don't know. Okay? A lot of people have judgment liens now. They got behind on paying their credit cards and stuff during the recession. So now they've got judgment liens. Self-employed people during the recession weren't making as much money. So maybe they didn't pay their taxes. They have state and federal tax liens on their property. They have bankrupted second mortgages. They have partial claim second mortgages from the loan mod they did in 2022. And you come to sell the house in 2024 and don't know about it. So my point is, folks, is because of the recession, because of the dire financial straits people were put in due to the lockdowns, due to COVID, due to the government, they now titles are getting clouded like crazy again. So do yourself a favor, list the property, withhold it from the market for a few days like you all do nowadays anyway to try and get your own buyer, and check the title. It's going to cost you $100 probably to go to a title company, ask them for an owners and encumbrances report, O&E. It's going to show you all the liens on the property, and do not do a net sheet. Do not go live on MLS for your seller until you know what liens are on the property, and you have to order payoffs on the liens. Because if there's a judgment lien for $7,000 that was applied to the property in 2021, it's probably over $9,000 today with accrued interest. Okay, so you can't do a net sheet if you don't know what how many liens are on the property, and you can't do a net sheet unless you know the payoffs on all those liens.
Would the county have that information on second liens?
Yes, you can go to the county and look it up for yourself, and it'll take you hours, and the lady at the county's gonna be kind of crabby throwing the books out at you. So if it was
I
me,
like those ladies. They're pretty nice to me.
yeah, well, yeah, and you know what, Jeff? Good for you. Me, I'm too lazy to go to the county and stand there for an hour looking through crap when I could pay a title company $100 and get it in 24 hours.
Yeah,
So,
it takes a while for sure.
yes. Yep.
I went through Guardian, and he did do, on this particular case, he did do a second lien check. I had him do that, even though we haven't working with an offer yet. But that second thing that you're talking about wasn't added to, it's not on record because it hasn't been finalized. What you said, that
partial
back
claim second
payment.
mortgage. No,
Yep.
because the loan isn't modified yet.
Right.
That's
Yep.
why. Once
Yep.
it's complete, then it'll happen.
Right. I get it. Thank
Okay.
you. This is huge.
Now, here's the other biggie, okay? Keep you from stepping in cow pies and losing commissions and ruining lives for your sellers. Yeah, you need to understand how these mortgage forbearances work, okay? It depends on the type of loan they have. Remember I said 1 out of every 4 FHA homeowners, mortgagees went into a forbearance. 1 out of 6 conventionals went into a forbearance. When they didn't make their payments for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, longest forbearances I know of so far are 24 months. When they start making, how do they start making payments again, and what happens to those missed payments? It depends on the type of loan they have. If the seller's mortgage is FHA and they went into a forbearance, the only way they can start making payments again and keep the house, they can't just start making payments again. They have to go through a loan modification. Well, they have 2 options. 1, pay all the missed payments. Well, if I couldn't afford my house payment for 18 months at $2,000 a month, how am I going to come up with $36,000 a day to bring it current, right? So people can't. So because they can't make up all the payments in one lump sum, now they have to do a loan modification. This is FHA or VA loans only, okay? Now, here's what you need to know. Over 50% of those people will be declined on the loan mod. Here's why. they're probably sitting on a 2 3/4 to 3.5% loan, right? Because they took out the mortgage 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It's going to be modified at current rates. Current rates are 7.5, 8, 8.5, right? So their payment was $1,300 a month. Now it's going to be $1,800 a month. Okay, the modified payment. Now here's the other thing. They have to qualify for the new payment under the same rules as what they qualified for in the old payment. So the FHA ratios, you know, the income to debt ratios apply. So a lot of these people that now the modified payment is going to be higher than the old payment. That's one thing. Number two, odds are they have increased debt because they were in financial trouble. So they had no credit card debt in 2019 when things were good under the last administration, and we got they at low interest rate, right? So, but now because of the recession and the lockdowns and what the government did to us, now they've got credit card debt. So even if their income is the same, their debt ratio, income to debt ratio is off, and they don't qualify for the new payment. So only 50% of those people are going to get the loan mod. And what's going to happen to the other ones? The minute the loan mod is canceled, is declined, they start foreclosure proceedings like that. Okay, so this is what you're headed into. Now, the people that had a mortgage forbearance with Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, what they're doing is when people came out of the forbearance and they could afford to start making payments again. Fannie or Freddie takes all the missed payments and it puts it on the end of the mortgage as a balloon payment due on sale, okay? Or due when the whole first mortgage paid off. So due on sale. Now, here's the trouble. That balloon payment doesn't show on the homeowner's mortgage statement. So you come to list that house 2 months from now, and there's a $40,000 balloon from all the months that they missed the payments on their Fannie Mae conventional mortgage. And they don't know it. They forgot, right? So you ask them, how many loans do you have? Oh, I just have one mortgage. It's a Fannie Mae with US Bank. And you look at their mortgage statement, you do a net sheet based on that, but you didn't put the $40,000 balloon on the net sheet because you didn't know about it. It's not on the mortgage statement. The only way you'll find out is by ordering a payoff from the lender. It's the only way you can find out. Okay. Now, private investor conventional mortgages, what they're doing is when the people come out of the mortgage forbearance, okay, you missed the payments of $2,000 a month for a year, your mortgage forbearance has expired. With those types of loans, they say, okay, give us the $12,000, you can start making payments again, or we're going to foreclose. Or the $24,000, 12 months of missed payments of $2,000 a month. Well, I don't have $24,000. Oh, you don't? Okay, we'll take your missed payments over the last year and we'll spread them out over the next 2 years. We'll add it to your house payment. Well, if I couldn't afford $2,000 a month for the last 2 years, think I'm going to be able to afford $3,000 a month for the next 2 years? No. So people default and bang, they go into foreclosure. So this is why we're getting way more foreclosure notices coming out, and why the amount of short sales on my desk are increasing exponentially because of all these people in trouble trying to get back on track. And maybe when they went in their COVID forbearance in 2021, maybe they had equity, but now they've missed payments for 2 years. They come out of the forbearance. Now they're underwater because of the 40,000 in missed payments, right? And now it's a short sale coming to us. So this is what's going on. So here's my message to you folks. If you learn nothing else from the class today, know this. As a real estate professional, when you list a property, do not go live on MLS or do a net sheet unless and until you've checked the title so you know what liens are on the property and you've ordered payoffs on every lien. So that's the only way you can do a net sheet as a professional and know for sure what that homeowner's equity is. Because all these crazy programs with the lenders, the only way to know how much they owe is if you order a payoff. Okay? But you won't know about partial claim second mortgages from old loan mods. That doesn't show in the payoff. You have to find that out through the title. Okay, so
So you
check
have to
the title
order,
and order payoffs if you're listing a property. If you don't, there's a 20% chance you won't close.
so the ONE won't tell you the same information. You'd have to do both of those? The order,
Have
the
to do
payoff?
both. The O&E
Yeah, okay.
will tell you, they'll tell you that they have a first mortgage with US Bank that's a Fannie Mae, but you won't know the payoff unless you order the payoff. Okay, you won't know the amount. Because if they went into a forbearance, their payoff on a Fannie or Freddie loan will not show on their mortgage statement. The balloon won't show. Okay. Yep, Marjorie.
So on his, it shows as the mortgage is now 40 years on the loan modification, not
Yeah,
not
right.
car loans. So it doesn't show as something that's a balloon payment. It's just that it's at this interest rate, but now it goes out
That's
40
totally
years.
different. It's totally different. That's
Okay.
loan modification. That's not what we're talking about.
Okay, but it is, right now it is that second. So in the loan modification, it is rolled into that total amount. It isn't a second separate mortgage like you're talking about.
You don't know that.
That's why I'm asking you. I thought,
Yeah, I don't know your specific client. You'd have to ask the lender. Okay.
Okay.
You'd have to ask the lender. Right.
thank you.
They may still have a partial claim second mortgage with all the missed payments, and now they're rolling it out over 40 years because the interest on it is so stinking high that they have to get the payment down to where the homeowner can afford it.
Yeah, because the
But you want to pay.
Oh,
If I was
the
them, I'd
payment's
sell the
low.
damn property.
Well, we're trying.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that is my basic message. That's all that I think. That's the last page of the PowerPoint. Here's what I want you to know. It's so complex, and its titles are going to be crappy for 5 years because all this stuff is just getting put on the title now as people are going through recovery, right? So it's going to take 5 years before all this gets cleaned up again, just like it took till 2015-16 to clean up the old title messes from 2008 to 2012 recession. Okay, so you're going to run into this. Don't be lazy. Do your job as a listing agent. I can't begin to tell you, it's like this. The amount of agents that have called me over the years where they didn't check the title and they got a week before closing and they can't close because of partial claim second mortgages or balloon payoffs from forbearances or judgments they didn't know about, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So before you do a net sheet, check the title and order payoffs on any and all liens. Yes, it's going to cost you $100 from maybe your title closer might do it for you for nothing. Who knows? But they normally charge a little for it. But
It was
be
less than
professional.
100. It was less than 100 with
Yeah,
our
it depends who your
guardian one.
closer is. I know some title companies that charge 175, some that charge 90, right? Some will do it for some. If it's your favorite closer, she might do it for free. Now, here's the other thing I want to tell you. For if there's any of you under 68, I'm 68, I don't know crap about social media. I barely know how to look at my grandkids' pictures on Facebook. But for those of you who are media savvy, social media savvy, if you market yourself on social media, get the word out there now. There's people in trouble. 1 out of 10 homeowners is facing mortgage difficulties. That's a huge percentage of the market. You can take advantage of it if you understand this stuff and you market it. And in the email I'm going to send to Jill that she's going to forward to you guys, I'm going to have some memes in there, some short sale memes and foreclosure avoidance memes. So if you market yourself on Facebook or Instagram or all the rest of it, you can use those memes to kind of grab somebody's attention and then put your message and your contact info underneath. Because it is a service you need to provide. It's a service that the marketplace needs. And that's why I do this class, to let you guys know what you need to know now that's different than the free sailing you've had for the last, 6-7 years in real estate. So the other thing I want to tell you is, don't hesitate to call me for any reason. Okay. Again, I was a realtor for 30 years. I understand your end of the business. And if you've got a homeowner in trouble and you're not quite sure what to tell them, feel free to call me. I may ask you some questions. I need to know this and this and this to answer your question. You go back, you get the info, you come back to me. It doesn't have to be a short sale for you to call me. It might be on a loan mod question. It might be on a deed in lieu question. It might be just the sheriff's sales already occurred and what do we do now question. Okay, so don't hesitate to contact me. There's no charge. If I don't have the answer, I can get the answer from the lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. I can get you the answers so that you can provide correct information to your client. Okay, happy to help you. I want to help every realtor earn a commission. I know you guys are not making the same money you made 3 years ago. I want to help you, and I want to help every homeowner get mortgage debt relief if I can, to help them out of trouble. So that's it. That's the whole spiel. We went a little over time. Anybody have any other questions for me?
Wendy, there is one question in the chat from Lynn.
Yeah.
She said, when presenting an offer, can you request title as part of the negotiating?
When you present an offer?
As
Yeah.
a buyer's agent.
Probably not, because I don't know. That's a question for your broker. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I can tell you everything. I mean, what can you can do anything contractually that everybody agrees with. So I guess the answer is yes. Will they do it? I don't know. It's part of the negotiations, right? Yeah. So
This has been amazing and valuable, and every agent in our business, in our office should watch this. I mean, really, there's so much info here.
I know.
So
And it's
do you think
information
BlackRock
you can't
will own?
get anywhere else? What?
You think BlackRock will own whatever 40% of the single family homes in the next 10 years?
I don't know. They own everything else.
True.
BlackRock and Vanguard own 80% of the stock of all the, most of the Fortune 500 companies. Why do you think the companies do the things they do that are hurting their own sales? They're being told by BlackRock and Vanguard. So it's a shame. It's a shame. Our country doesn't belong to the people anymore. It doesn't.
Scary.
Yeah, it is. It's very scary. So any other questions at all?
The only
Yeah.
comment that I'm gonna make is, Wendy, thank you so much for your time. And what I would highly say is if you have a situation like this, please give her a call, because we can all see the complex through this. And we obviously we recorded this today, so you can go back and watch it. We'll get the slides sent out through the email, and Wendy has some other information that will get sent out.
Yep.
But again, go to the experts. They will help you through this. So that is my message is don't navigate this through yourselves. This is complex.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You guys, good luck. I hope your business picks up.
Thanks, Wendy. This
Thanks
was
for your
great.
time and
So-
information,
You
Wendy.
bet.
Thanks, Jill.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.